welcome to a very special episode of Face the Music. We're here in Bombay at the historic Wilson College with two very special guests. We also have music from a very special band, one of Bombay's top bands, Zero. You'll see more of Zero later, but first, let me introduce my two guests for this episode. I said it was a very special episode, and one of the things that makes it special is I'm not quite sure how to introduce the guests. One of them, put very simply, is a film director, but he's also a television anchor, and I suspect he's probably better at doing this than I am. The other one is the biggest movie star in India, possibly, given the number of people who watch Hindi films, possibly the biggest movie star in the world, but he's also the brightest man I know. Please welcome Karan Johar and Shah Rukh Khan. How long have you lived with this kind of applause, this level of applause? This response when you come in? I saw the crowds, the police when you entered. How long has it been part of your life?
It only happens when you are around me.
Aye, come on. I thought blame it on Karan, that's easier. No, more seriously. I've seen nothing like this since the glory days of Amitabh Bachchan. And this is Bombay, your own city, where presumably people see you more often.
No, I don't want to sound as if this happens everywhere. I think if it's a special occasion like today is, to do an interview and a lot of students and a lot of people around, I mean, it's just convenient today.
Come on. But does it affect you?
Oh, it humbles you a lot.
Yeah.
When you see so many people expecting you to entertain you, or so many people being so nice.
People are standing outside, they just want to see you. They don't even expect to be entertained.
So I think it's a way of them telling me that I've been entertaining them well for the last 15, 16 years, and it's quite humbling. And
it's acknowledgement, you think, in a sense.
Yeah, I think so, and I get very humbled when I see it.
Yeah. Karan, when you were in New York, there was a similar response, wasn't there, when you were shooting this movie?
Yeah,
Shah Rukh?
we actually, because of him, I think the budget of the film went up for various reasons. Not only because of his remuneration, but we actually had a location set at the Grand Central Station. We couldn't shoot because of him, because he attracted thousands of people just standing and screaming, as we saw earlier on.
This kind of response.
Well, it was exactly that in New York, and not just, I mean, it was just not Indians or Pakistanis and Bangladeshis. It was people from China, from Korea, from France, from Germany. And don't shift, Shah Rukh, it's okay, it's all very flattering. But that's the way it was. And finally the lady came and told me, like, who is this man? And she says, because she said, I had Tom Cruise here and other film Hollywood stars. And she says, they attracted hundreds, you're attracting thousands. And she canceled my entire shoot for 2 weeks.
So you couldn't shoot?
We couldn't shoot, and I had nowhere to go for the next 2 weeks, and I needed a station, so I had to move location to a place called New Haven, which hosts the Yale University. And then I went there, and there were Indians there as well, so we had to shoot the platform in Philadelphia. So thanks to him, we had a kind of a world tour happening within America.
Do you think there's anywhere, he's too modest to say this, is there anywhere where he will get privacy and peace? Or does he get this response?
No, nowhere. I don't go with him on holiday anymore. I just told him in the van, I can't take you anywhere. I mean, it's just awful, because in London you can't walk with him. Now you can't walk with him on the streets of Germany or France or even Poland or Germany.
I heard about that. In fact, there was a team from Stern here to interview, and they said, I quote, in Germany, Shah Rukh Khan is bigger than Tom Cruise.
See, actually, I think it's all our Asian friends. I mean, that's the one plus point we have of the great population explosion in our country.
Every fourth face is Indian.
Every fourth face is Indian, so every fourth face recognizes me. But yes, our Indian films have been doing well, and I don't want to sound modest, but truly I think the kind of films that I've done over the last few years, they are highly responsible because...
Explain that. What do you mean by that?
See, the kind of films I've done, they are a mix of our culture, very specifically Indian culture, even if they're Karan's films or Adi's films or a couple of others that I've done. Though mostly when I try to count the other films, I haven't done very many. I've done mostly Karan's films only.
Yeah.
But all these films have a huge cultural Indian-ness to them. Plus, they are presented in a way which appeals to two cross-sections. One, the youngsters, because we talk like how we try to at least. I have to dye my beard and hair now to look like young. But we talk like the youngsters. We speak their language. There is ease in his filmmaking. And I think for the Western audience, somewhere they understand that language and still who would love to know Indian culture, understand family values or, you know, the music, dance, the colors that we have in our cinema. So the kind of films I've been, see, if I was doing a lot of action films, I realistically feel maybe the appeal would not have reached that much because
You think so? Look at Bruce Lee, who was sort of the first third world superstar. His entire emphasis was on action. His popularity was based on action.
Yeah, but look at the action.
Amitabh Bachchan in the 70s, it was action. Whereas you're, I think, the first person whose action is a sort of universal language. You don't need to understand the language. You're the first person where you need to understand what you're doing for people to appreciate your films. And despite that, the appeal is international.
No, I mean, I'd like to think I'm like Bruce Lee, but
at the moment, you're a bigger star, certainly.
But you know, there was
and
a strong,
alive, thankfully.
And alive as well, yes.
You know, there's strong USP to what Mr. Bruce Lee did.
Yeah.
The late Mr. Bruce Lee did, but he was, and that was a great USP. I think nobody ever has been able to come close to it, perhaps except Jackie Chan.
You're a bigger star than Bruce Lee ever was, Shahrukh. I mean, just in terms of numbers, in terms of box office figures, in terms of number of people who see your films.
I think we are on our way to outstrip China in population. That's why I feel like a bigger star right now.
That's actually not true.
Okay, so I'm the biggest star in the world.
The world, yeah. It took a long time, but I got you to say it finally. Yeah.
So yeah, I've been trying to be modest and humble.
Yeah,
because
it doesn't suit you. Don't bother.
Okay, bring on Bruce Lee.
You were the guy who used to always say that when he did something, he had to feel he was the best at it. Is that still true?
Absolutely. When I say that, it is because I am quite nervous about what I do.
Okay.
It may not seem so because, see, this is the job I do.
It seems effortless and easy from the outside.
It seems effortless because it's a job now I've been doing for 15 years. If it doesn't seem effortless, then it's completely a waste what I've been doing. But there are a lot of people who prop me up. There are a lot of inputs that go in besides my hard work too. But I think to all the youngsters, because I see a lot of young people here, if you don't wake up in the morning with the belief that you are the best, chances are you won't even be better. I remember I was training for a serial called Fauji, and we had to do a jump from a parachute. So I was training for that. And we had to jump across a little opening. And so that we don't hit your head after you've jumped, the gentleman used to tell us, genuinely, 20 feet away, you have to reach that end of the wall and jump for that wall. Impossible for anyone to do except Krish. But
nicely done, yes.
He would say that, okay, you aim for that.
Yeah.
And invariably, the guys who didn't aim for that, just aim for jumping 2-3 feet, hit their head in the back. So I think the idea is that when I say I wake up in the morning and believe I'm the best, it is to try and work towards an excellent level of best, hoping to reach it. If I don't, at least be better or good. And I think all youngsters, I tell my son this, some of them are older than my son and daughter, but I like to tell you, you get up in the morning and you just think you're the best and things will all come.
And you will be the best. Yeah?
You will be the best in love, in work, in relationship, with your parents, with your friends. It'll turn out to be best if you believe that.
You've worked with him. What's he like to work with? Does he have this attitude that I'm going to do a little bit more, extend myself, be even better?
I think, I don't know, working with him is an amazing experience in that respect because most of his desires, be it ambition or wanting to be better than what he's done before, are all very silent. They're very silent desires which he doesn't bring to the fore.
He doesn't, as friends, when you talk about it, he never
No, he does
about
everything. He does his own homework and comes. You see, a lot of people, every time, you know, you normally attribute a tremendous performance to the filmmaker. But with Shahrukh, I mean, I take absolutely no credit. It's all him. He grafts his character, he structures it, he knows what he's doing, he knows how to handle it, how even like in a tough character like in Kabhi Alvida Na Kehna, he grafted for himself. He gave himself the dignity and the magnanimity that I hadn't written in the character. He does a lot of his own homework. You know, you would think that he's not doing any kind of structuring or homework before coming on set.
He makes it seem so
He
effortless.
just makes it seem, but he's actually thought about it. He's etched it out in his head. He's performed it before he's reached the set. And then almost sometimes comes and, you know, he says, oh, which half of the film are we shooting today? He knows it all. He knows the scene. He knows what happens before. He knows what's happening after. It's just that he's not one of those actors who'll want to make you believe that they've done a tremendous amount of homework and come. He doesn't perform performance. He just does it.
I'm like that co-student you have who tells you he's not studied but quietly studied.
Actually, every night he's studying.
And I understand because I was one of those students, you know,
you
who pretended, totally pretended. So I understand this brilliance of his
Would you have been a director if it hadn't been for Shah Rukh?
Well, I think he's one of the huge contributors. I don't think so. I mean, I think he made my first
I always
film
think that
happen.
people like you, Farah, etc., people in a sense, he turned into directors. Is that fair?
Not true.
You're going to be modest, but
no,
they would have not got the breaks they got at that stage if it
the
hadn't been
big
for you.
projects may not have happened.
The big projects would not have happened.
I think these, I mean, they are younger than me and they seem now, it'll always be a moment of pride for me that I started their first film.
Yeah.
And because I'm a movie star and face of most of the movies and things to come, then everyone thinks Shah Rukh gave them the first break. But truly speaking, when you work with certain people in a field, you would notice in your field of work, journalism or any other, that suddenly you start seeing people, this guy or this lady is speaking a lot of sense. And why? And this person is working in some medium of films, some part of films. So why isn't he or she making something?
Is that what happened
much
with
bigger?
Karan and you?
Absolutely. I mean, I remember during Dilwale, Adi, see, I'll tell you, during Dar, I felt that with Adi, who was assisting Yashji.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, why don't you do a film with me? And his father wanted me to do, so we did Dilwale. During Dilwale, it happened exactly with Karan, that, you know, there were a lot of actors in it, and Adi was very stressed. So because he had worked with me earlier, he would leave me with Karan, that Karan, you do the lines with him, I'll do it with the other actors. So there were times when he said some things which were not there on paper. And I would say, that's very cool, I like to use that. And may I? And then we'd go and tell Adi, you know, Karan suggested, or I would take the credit and say I suggested. Sometimes when he thought that, you know, he wouldn't pass it. But, you know, they pass stars suggestions faster. Yeah. So I would say that, and halfway through I told him, I said, listen, you make a film, your dad is a big producer, and my love for him is actually a little more because of his father.
Sure.
I love his father more. Yes, very special to me.
Yeah.
He had always been very special to me. So I just told him, if your son makes a film for you, I'd like to do the next one after Chahat.
Yeah.
Sorry, after Duplicate.
In fact, my poor father was shell-shocked because I don't think ever expected me to do this. He thought I was just on a stint on a holiday assisting Dilwale. So one day at dinner, I still remember him saying that Shah Rukh called and he was saying some strange things to me on the phone. So I said, like what? So he said, you should be a director. And my mother just stopped eating and she said, he's gone mad. He's just lost it. What does he know? What do you know? So I said, yeah. And I always believed their lack of conviction in me that time. And he said, you can make a film, and he's given me dates in 97. And so we all just continued eating very silently after that.
There were no discussions about price?
Nothing. He offered himself to me. I mean, I was almost shocked. When he said it, I thought he was missing his wife. It was very cold in Switzerland. He said, you know.
Do you want to comment on that?
And he said you should be a director and I'll do your first film. And we were sitting in, I don't know if you remember this, it was Sanin, it was where we were shooting Dilwale, and Kajal was sitting and making a lot of noise, which is quintessential Kajal. And she said, if you do it, I'll do it also. So I said, oh, okay. And that's exactly how Kuch Kuch Hota Hai was formed, by Shah Rukh just saying one thing arbitrarily.
As a matter of fact,
you didn't even hear the story.
No, the final story of Kuch Kuch Hota Hai is not the one. You know, one day I called him and I said, where's the story? So he wouldn't believe when I came back to India in Jaipur. That's why I said Chahat. He was shooting Chahat. And I called him over to Jaipur. I told Yashji, I said, Yashji, please send your son. Tell him to narrate the story. When do we shoot? 97 now. So he came up and he narrated some really bogus, absolutely
I made it up on the flight.
Which I could tell. It was really, really unworked at. And I just wanted him to have confidence. I said, okay, the fantastic story, let's do it. By the time they came back, I remember Kajal and him came back to narrate to me. They both came together.
2-3 months before the release, he hadn't heard it.
I see, if you have faith in someone, you have to let them be free. See, I also have.
Who's never made a film, who gives you what you say is a bogus story. You're not doing it for the money, so why do you do it?
See, finally, it comes down to how much faith you have in yourself and your choices. It's not about what, see, he's going to deliver or not, whether the story is going to work or not. I have enough confidence. And when I say this, that see, I chose this, I will see it through, and I make sure it'll stick. Sometimes it doesn't happen. Sometimes it doesn't happen. I've done that many a times. I failed with a lot of films just like this.
What proportion fails and what proportion works?
See, now, lately, most of it is succeeding.
I was about to say that.
No, really. I mean, I'll be very honest. I think I'm making good choices. Yeah. But there were times when I've taken on films and said, okay, let this person do it. You know, Some of them don't work. Like my own Ashoka hasn't worked.
Yeah.
And I think it's a wonderful film. So the beauty
It
of the
hasn't
film
worked
is...
commercially, it's worked as a
Yes,
film.
it doesn't reduce or take away. And I'm also a person, genuinely, I'm never bothered about the commercial aspect of a film.
That I know.
As much as people like to say that I'm very commercial-minded, etc., etc.
Well, you started it by saying I'm very greedy and stuff.
Why I'm greedy?
Okay.
Individually,
okay.
yes.
I'm going to talk about greed, I'm going to talk about taking chances, but all that's after the break, so don't go away. Welcome back. A special episode of Face the Music with Karan Johar and Shah Rukh Khan. We were going to talk about greed. I mean, you were the first star to make remarks like money matters, I'm just an entertainer, I am very greedy. And people wondered why you said that because your life doesn't actually illustrate that. So explain that.
See, my logic is that, you know, we are in a world where survival is an important thing.
Yeah.
So is spirituality, so is goodness, so is kindness. And I don't want to give a wrong message. You know, people started telling me that I am looked up to by a lot of youngsters.
Yeah.
I do not want to tell any youngster anything that I have not done. I have 100% wanted to do well in life. There's nothing wrong in wanting to do well in life. The greed has been, when I kept on saying it, I even remember saying there was greed for knowledge. There is this huge desire to learn more in the field I'm in, or maybe outside if I need to, but in the field surely. So if a shot is taken, if a sound is done, I get very intrigued. How is it done? And I make it my duty to learn it. So when I talk about greed, I talk about entertainment. See, at the end of it all, just now I was being asked, you know, you're playing a cynical, dark, morose character in Kabhi Alvida Na Kehna, and how are your fans? They might dislike it. And I'm like, listen, if you use the word fans, there is no discussion because they love me anyway.
Whatever you do. Yeah.
Whatever I do. But if you're talking about an audience, their level of intellect and intelligence is such that they know I'm doing a role. It is the so-called makers of make-believe guys of media or writers who think ye theek nahi hai because they're the same guys who tell me you play the same role.
Yeah.
So the idea is, at the end of it all, I'm just an entertainer. You know, I'm making a movie. It is not about life. It is about taking a story from life and trying to show you one aspect. It's up to you to decide whether at the end of the film you're going to start kicking like Bruce Lee or you're going to start crying like me. But it's not something we're telling you to do. You know, the idea is that. So I'm just an entertainer.
But the criticism comes not so much from the movie. The allegation is that you'll do weddings, you'll do anything if people pay you enough.
See, my core competence and what I like to give absolute excellences in entertaining,
Yeah.
which is my films. I was the first person who, even now, if I'm not mistaken, and I not like to compare, and there's no justification, I don't think I'm the highest paid actor in the country.
Is he? I mean, Karan,
ask
you
him
would
how
know.
much he's paid me. I
Is
won't
he
even
the
ask
highest-
him for
I
money.
mean, he may not take money from you, but
No, you ask any
No,
other
but he
producers.
doesn't take. I don't think his remuneration is the mainstay of his income in
no,
terms
that
of.
I know. But he would have paid.
No,
sure.
but he may be, but he doesn't take.
he
it.
doesn't take the. He doesn't accept
Because
those
I think
films.
he comes from that school that he'd rather that extra money go into the film, which makes a difference in the larger sense of the word.
I know that I have to live a life which is of a standard because I'm supposedly a big star now.
Right.
For everything else that I can get from peripheral of being a movie star, I do, and I have no lack of dignity in the labor. I am finally, like I claim, an entertainer. So if you tell me to dance on a stage, sing on the road, I've done all that. I've grown up doing that. I was a street theater actor. I've done it for Barry John in Kamani Auditorium. I have done it on television. I'm doing it in movies. You tell me to come and do it in a live on the roads here in Chopati, I will. And I will come and do it if you think it's going to pay you. You're doing a business. If you're doing for charity, I'll do it free. If you're doing a business, pay me. I'm not asking you for money for coming here. This is a television show. And I think you talk good stuff to the world. You present different views to the world. I think it's important to come here. And you have youngsters here. It's important to come here. But if anybody else asked me for a commercial show, I would tell them, excuse me. Listen, though television, I don't think television can afford me. As big
That
an
is
industry,
certainly true. That is certainly true.
as big an industry as television is.
Yeah.
But beyond that, I mean, I am into commerce of making money from the fact that I do make films and I don't charge for them really. You know the world is moving at a pace that if you decided to be a poet, you would have difficulty buying your own food.
Right.
So be a poet, be a commercial poet. Hussain Saab was with us, M.F. Hussain Saab. And he said, you and I single-handedly have corrupted art and films. But we have, you know, he said, like, we have corrupted it by, you know, making it so commercial. But on the same hand, we made it popular all over the world also. So I think it has to be that kind of a balance that everybody